Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Repair Pro Tips. Today we're going to be discussing changing out a transmission oil cooler on a 2017 Volkswagen Jetta TDI. It's a 1.8 liter automatic with the sports shift. This did have a transmission put in it, and I believe the guy just did not fix this correctly. This is my godson's car. Let me know what you think. He thinks it's cool as shit, so, maybe you do too. I've already lowered it and done a few other things to it. I'll go over some of that stuff in a future video. If you'd like to see about that, drop a comment, let me know. Today, what we're going to be doing is fixing his coolant leak. He bought this part just in case I need it, because we're not sure if it's the part itself leaking or something near it. So what we're going to do first, now on a factory car, you're going to want to take the whole factory airbox off. On his car, he has this Unitronic cold air intake. So what we're going to need to do is loosen up the boot clamp that goes to the intake tube. That's going to be an 8mm on this particular clamp. And then after we have that loose, as you can see, I found out that there's a bolt holding the shroud for the filter down to the body. So we're going to take a T30 and get that out. Now that, I believe, is a factory bolt that he reused there. So, you may have T30s on your factory airbox. I don't know for sure. Now, there's a vacuum line on the bottom of this cold air intake, so we're going to have to pop that off here. I almost forgot to. And then we can slide the intake right off. Now that we've got this intake off, we're going to go ahead and take a peek over here. I'm going to try to point out to you where exactly that part is on the transmission. Your transmission is going to be over on the driver's side. So down here underneath the master cylinder, right where my hand and finger are pointing, is the transmission cooler. Now I will link any tools I use in this video in the description. I am an Amazon affiliate. It would help me out a lot. If you do need these tools, just click on the link. Even if you don't need the tool, don't click on the link and go shopping. That'd still help me out. I'd appreciate it a lot. Now, with all that said, this kit works great for like the foreign cars. I use my Snap-on one for the American cars and some of like Toyotas and Hondas. Now, he did just drive this vehicle down to the shop I work at, so it did have some pressure in it. As you can see, I'm being very careful to let this pressure out. I have to strongly caution you, do not try to attempt this with the engine hot. I got lucky, there was very minimal pressure in it, but that can blow up in your face and burn you. So what we're going to do is take the right fitting from that kit and the pump, and we're going to thread that fitting into the reservoir here, which you want to make sure that's nice and tight down in there, like, so that way it's not leaking out air right at the reservoir. And then we're going to connect the pump to it, and we're going to apply some pressure. Now, this first time I did it here, it didn't really hold much pressure, and I didn't see anything leaking out at that point just yet. So I needed to do a little more tear down before I could actually see what was going on. So we'll get into that in a second here. So what you're going to want to do is remove your battery tray, or your battery, I'm sorry, and then the battery tray. Now the battery tray has 10mm bolts holding it in. I believe there's 3 here. Your battery should be 2 10mm to take the terminals off, and I forget what the hold down was for it. So, probably another 10. So I'm going to get my little mini impact here, hopefully soon, and zip these 3 bolts out, and then we're going to take that tray out of the way so you guys can see what's actually going on, and you can keep an eye on the transmission cooler and let me know when it starts to leak. and where you think it's coming from. If you have an idea where it's coming from now in the point of the video, please let me know. There's not a lot of videos apparently on this online. I did not research it. I was just going off of what my godson had told me. So right there with the red zip ties on it, you can see the coolant leaking out now on the top of the oil cooler. So I did not see any coolant leaking below the oil cooler or out of the oil cooler itself. What it was actually doing was leaking out of that hose on the other side of the master cylinder. What they did when they replaced the transmission, they reused these spring-loaded clamps and, excuse me, probably did not position it just right or whatever, but I'm going to now fix this whole issue instead of having to replace the oil cooler, which isn't that hard. Once you're down to here, there's only a few bolts that hold it in. If you look at the oil cooler, I'm going to pull it up here in a second. It's kind of hard to see, but there's like, I think 4 bolts total. I believe they're 13 millimeters, and they're pretty easy to get at the back of the engine with the battery out and all. So if you did need to change the cooler, that's where you're going to go to after you get these hoses off. So what I'm going to do right now is put a hose pinch plier on this hose to try to prevent as much coolant leakage as I can, even though it's already leaking all over the place. So, but anyhow, we'll get these situated far enough back, and then I'm going to take a pair of pinch clamp pliers, I guess you would call them. I'll link a pair in the description. This pair is really, really old and from my father, so I use it for sentimental reasons. But you could get them on Amazon. I'll link a tool in the description to help you, and also some pinch pliers. That's, I believe, where I got those for the hose. And what we're going to do now is pinch that clamp, pull it back, get it off the barb of the fitting, and then we're going to pull the hose off. Now that we got that off, let me get the pliers out of the way. That way you can see a little better. I know my hands are kind of taking up a lot of room here. So we're going to wiggle this hose off now. Should come off pretty easy. If you do have a little trouble, maybe take a pair of pliers and just wiggle it back and forth. But if it's leaking, it should come off pretty easy. Now we're going to remove this pinch clamp because, you know, only lazy mechanics leave them on and just throw a new clamp on it. So we're going to remove that, get that out of the way. And I'm just going to get a regular worm style clamp because I'm not clamping onto plastic. I'm not too concerned with having a pressure pinch style clamp on this particular coolant line. So we're going to get that on there and make sure you situate it in a way that you'll be able to tighten it. That's key here. You don't want to like make it hard to tighten for yourself, and if it's your own vehicle or if you're going to work on this vehicle again, maybe you want to be able to get at this stuff. So put it in a way that you'll be able to actually get on the clamp and tighten it up. So now I believe I got the hose. Yeah, I got the hose on there now. And we're going to move that clamp around a little bit. Let me grab a ratchet with an 8mm because this has an 8mm head on this hose clamp. And we're going to spin that around so it's facing the right way for us here. And then I'm going to simply tighten the clamp down. Now once this clamp's tightened down and I take the hose pinch pliers out of the way, what you're going to want to do at this point is put your pressure tester, if you didn't take it off, or if you did take it off of the car, back on the car. You'll see I clean up the oil cooler and everything so I could see if anything leaked out. So we're getting this nice and tight, and it's in the right spot. You want to make sure you're past that little barb on the transmission cooler on the nipple there. Nipple. So yeah, now the pinch pliers are out of the way. So we're going to spray this a little bit with some brake clean and then wipe it off. And then we're going to repressurize the system and see if we have any leaks. Now, If this has helped you at all, I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave me a comment and let me know. I do enjoy making these videos, but I want to know I'm helping somebody. So help me out here. Let me know if I'm doing a good job. I think I am. I'm trying my best here, people. So now I'm going to repressurize the system, and we should have no leaks, which in fact we do not. So now that we have no leaks, we can do the reverse of what we did before and put the battery tray, the battery, and the air box back in. And then what you're going to want to do is leave your radiator cap off, fill the coolant till it stops bubbling up, and then you're going to want to purge the air out of the system. So you may have to start and stop the vehicle a few times to get all that air out. You don't want to let it boil over.